The myth of I am not enough. Imagine this scene. You're in bed, phone in hand. You've done everything you were supposed to do during the day. You worked, fulfilled responsibilities, talked to people, and yet, when it's finally quiet, that voice appears. A small, persistent, uncomfortable voice. It wasn't enough. I am not enough. And it doesn't matter how many achievements you have, how many degrees, or how many people tell you that you're doing great. That feeling returns, as if inside of you there were an invisible tribunal, constantly evaluating you and always finding flaws. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you don't say it out loud. Maybe you don't even think it with such clear words, but you feel it in your chest, in the tension of your body, in that automatic comparison with others, in that need to prove yourself, to push a little harder, to never fully relax. Stay until the end, because we're going to see why your brain is lying to you and how you can change that configuration starting today. Today, I want to talk to you about that, about the myth of I am not enough. And I call it a myth because although it feels real, it is not an objective truth. It is a psychological construction, learned, reinforced, and most importantly, reversible. In this video, we are going to dismantle this idea from psychology and neuroscience, but also from the human experience. We are going to understand why your brain insists on making you feel this way, and what you can start doing to stop living from that constant state of lack. Not to convince you that you are perfect, but so you stop treating yourself as if you are always in debt to yourself.
The pain point, when nothing is ever reached. The myth of I am not enough usually doesn't appear alone. It comes accompanied by phrases like, if I push a little harder, then I will be. When I achieve X, I'll feel at peace. I don't deserve to rest yet. And here's the trap. The goalpost moves, always. You achieve something and it doesn't last. You receive recognition and you minimize it. You rest and you feel guilty. Example, it happens to the student with the best grades and the CEO who just closed $1 million deal. The myth doesn't care about resumes. It understands internal insecurity. It's like running after a carrot that you never reach. And many people believe that this is motivation, that this internal discomfort is what keeps them moving forward. But from psychology, we know something important. Motivation based on chronic insufficiency doesn't drive you, it wears you out. So the key question isn't, what am I missing, but where does this feeling of not being enough come from? Key reframing. It's not a flaw, it's a mechanism. Here's an important revelation. The feeling of I am not enough is not an objective evaluation of your worth. It is an emotional signal generated by your nervous system. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you safe and functioning within a group. From an evolutionary standpoint, being accepted was survival. Being rejected could mean death. So we developed a system hypersensitive to any signal of I don't fit in, I'm not contributing, or I'm not valuable to the group. That system is still active today. When you feel that you are not enough, many times it's not because you actually aren't, but because your brain is detecting or imagining a social threat, comparison, judgment, possible rejection, or external expectations. In other words, it is not a truth. It is an alarm. And the problem isn't that the alarm exists. The problem is when it rings all the time. Explanation of the mechanism. What happens in your brain? Let's keep it simple. Your brain has several networks. One of them is the default mode network, which activates when you aren't focused on a specific task. It's the network that turns on when you're in silence, and you start thinking about yourself, your life, and what you did or didn't do. This network is an expert at comparing, evaluating, and narrating stories about who you are. If throughout your life you learned, through experience, education, culture, or relationships, that love, recognition, or security depended on performing, pleasing, or not failing,
That network will build a story consistent with that. The story usually goes something like this: I am worthy if I deliver. I am worthy if I don't disappoint. I am worthy if I do more than others. Every time you don't reach that internal standard, the brain interprets danger, and it responds with anxiety, self-criticism, or shame. Not because you are weak, but because you learn to associate your worth with your performance. And here comes something key. The brain confuses utility with worth.
The phone and the battery. Imagine you have a phone. When the battery drops to 20%, you don't say, "This phone is useless. This phone doesn't deserve to exist." You say, "It needs to recharge." But you don't do that with yourself. When you are tired, confused, less productive, or emotionally low, your internal dialogue doesn't say, "I need rest or support." It says, "I am not enough." The problem is not the state, it is the interpretation.
Why this myth is so reinforced in adult life. This is where the cultural context comes in. We live in a culture that glorifies doing over being, productivity, results, constant comparison, social media, metrics, likes, visible achievements. The implicit message is, if you aren't growing, you're failing. Or, that voice gets louder when we open Instagram and compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's gala premiere. So even when you are objectively doing well, your brain receives constant signals of, you should be more successful, more stable, more disciplined, more happy even. And this creates a brutal paradox. It's never enough, not even being enough.
Important warning. Before moving on, a necessary caveat. If you have clinical depression, ADHD, severe anxiety, or are a highly sensitive person, this feeling can be more intense and persistent. Not because you are failing, but because your nervous system processes emotional information differently. In those cases, personal work is important, but professional support can be key. This isn't a "it's all in your head" speech. It's an approach of understanding, not blame.
Tool 1. Separate worth from performance. This is one of the most powerful practices and one of the most uncomfortable at the start. It consists of training a clear distinction between two things: what you do, what you are worth. Every time you criticize yourself, ask, am I evaluating an action or my identity? Example, I didn't do enough today. Action evaluation. I am not enough. Identity attack. The second one is not useful. It doesn't inform. It only wounds. Simple practice. When I am not enough appears, reframe it into something specific and concrete. I didn't progress as much as I wanted on this project. I wasn't as present as I would have liked. That opens space to learn. A closed identity only generates shame.
Tool 2. The question that disarms the inner critic. Here is a powerful question. When you feel you aren't enough, ask yourself, enough for whom? For an idealized version of yourself? For expectations you never consciously chose? For an unfair comparison? Many times you are trying to meet a phantom standard. And no human being can win a game whose rules they don't know.
Tool 3. Re-educate the nervous system, not just the mind. This is key. It's not enough to intellectually understand that you are enough. The body has to feel it. The myth lives more in the nervous system than in thoughts. Practices that help. Slow, deep breathing activates the calming system. Conscious body contact, hands on the chest or abdomen. Real pauses without hidden productivity. Not to improve yourself, but to send your body the message. Right now, there is no threat. Calm is not reasoned, it is practiced.
Tool 4. Speak to yourself as you would speak to someone you love. It sounds simple. It isn't. Most people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. Imagine someone you love tells you, "I feel like I'm not enough." Would you respond with contempt? Would you tell them they should push harder? Probably not. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is mature emotional regulation.
Psychological support, something you need to hear. You don't have to constantly prove your worth to deserve to exist. You are not here to fulfill an invisible quota. Your worth is not canceled on bad days. It doesn't diminish when you rest. It doesn't disappear when you doubt. The myth of "I am not enough" sustains itself in silence and loneliness, and it weakens when you look at it head-on with understanding and context. You are not a defective project. You are a human system, sensitive and adaptable.
Integrating a new narrative. Let's recap. The feeling of "I am not enough" is not an objective truth, is a learned brain mechanism, is reinforced by culture, comparison, and self-demand, can be questioned, regulated, and transformed. It's not about repeating empty affirmations. It's about changing the relationship you have with yourself. Maybe the new message isn't "I am enough" all the time. Maybe it's something more honest and more human. Even when I feel insufficient, I am still worthy of respect and care. And remember, you don't have to earn your place in the world. You are already here. Thank you for joining me in this reflection. I know that letting go of the feeling of being in debt to yourself doesn't happen overnight, but the fact that you are here, questioning it, is already a huge step forward. If you'd like us to keep exploring these topics, subscribe and hit the bell so we can stay connected. And if you know someone who always demands too much of themselves, share this video with them. It might be the hug they need today. Take care of yourself, breathe, and remember, you are already enough, even on your quiet days. Until next time.